Hey mages, welcome to today's MTG Arena video, and today we're talking budget decks. Now I've got 5 decks for you today that I've brewed together. Each of these decks has no more than 5 rares in, so the rest of the whole deck of the 55 cards is commons and uncommons. Now in these 5 different rares it could be a mixture of gold rares and mythic rares, but like I said, no more than 5. And what these are great starter decks to build up. You can upgrade them as you go along if you do take to one of the decks and you enjoy them, or they will get you some wins straight away. Some of these have been quite competitive for me, so even with just 5 rares, if you get the synergy right in some decks, they can just string a load of wins together, which is what hopefully they will do for you. We're going to take a look at the decks now. Now, if you want any clues on how to update, leave it in the comments down below. I always get back to everyone that comments me, and as long as it's a nice comment, of course, then I generally will get back to you as soon as I can. But let's get on to today's decks. If you've enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for lots more. I do lots of budget content, meta content, all different, all around decks on MTG Arena and in paper as well. But the first one we're going to look at today is a mono green Stompy deck. Now the rares that I've chosen for this deck are going to be a couple of Innkeeper's Talent, because there's like a +1/1 counter theme around this as well, and 3 of Ouroboros, which is one of the best green cards going around at the moment. So 3 of these and 2 of the other. Now, if you're on a real tight string and you've only got 2 of these in your collection, and maybe you've got 3 Innkeeper Talent, just swap them around. But this is obviously the way I do it, but I think you can make the deck that way as well, just as a little heads up. But this card is an absolute powerhouse in Standard and being seen in many different types of decks. So it's a really good craft, because you could better put this in multiple different types of decks as you go along. This, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put X/1/1 counters on each creature you control, where X is this creature's power. So, very good. We've got Innkeeper's Talent here. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. You then put it on your Ouroboros. If that's on there, then all of a sudden everything's getting absolutely big and massive. It's a real cool Stompy green deck with 29 creatures in the main deck and just 6 instants and 6 enchantments. Now we go 23 land in this one because we've got very low CMC, so you can only need like 2.0, and we do run Llanowar Elves as a way to ramp out as well into this deck. So let's take a look at some of the creatures, and one of the, not combo, but one of the main interactions in this deck is the Hemiosymbic Might. So this becomes tapped, another target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where it's power. And then, like I said, with the Innkeeper's Talent and putting those counters on it, if we can, that can be massive. And you can see that by spreading these counters around, that all of your creatures can become big over time. It's really, really cool. And the interactions in this deck. Hello, Alchemist. When this becomes plotted, we can give a creature trample +3/2, so an early, turn 2 play, putting this on something and giving it, trample straight away, and just giving something an extra power. Even if it is your Hemo or your Llanowar Elves, it's still a good way to get like an early attack into play. We have Nada Connolly. This has kicker, and when you do kick it, you get 2 1/1 counters on it. So each creature you control with a 1/1 counter with that theme then has trample, and that is an all-important card, this common card for us, because we don't want little tokens being just put in blocks in there. We want, once we get all this big power on, we want to be able to trample over our opponents so we can get all that damage in. This is why this colony is such an important card, and don't always have to play it early on. If you can keep this back to, you can play for the kicker. Late game, we're going to trample over and get some damage into it as well. A couple of elites enters with 1/1 counters. When the counters leave, you get to put it on another target creature as well. This also has the warp, so we can do this early, earlier than expected, just to get the counters on something else and put this into play. It's another good aggressive creature in this, and this is what this deck is. It is an aggressive aggro Stompy creature. A slight bit more rampant, can potentially be turn 2 if we get Llanowar Elves down early, is then playing Fenrir. This will summon, get a basic land on the first iteration, and then we put it into battlefield tapped, and when you cast your creature spell with a second lore counter, something enters with an additional 1/1 counter, so more counter interactions with this deck as well. Last one to talk about is the Commando. This is a 3/3 for 3 mana. When it enters, put 2 1/1 counters on it if it wasn't cast or no mana was spent to cast it. So idea of this one is to plot this creature, not put it down straight away, and then get the ability of getting those 1/1 counter thing, unless you do need that blocker to go in there and you need some creature faces on the board, then you will put this down as a turn 3 card or something like that. Little bit of pseudo removal. We've got Bite Down that can fight creatures in here as well. We've got Defend the Rider that can protect stuff with hexproof and indestructible to normally to protect our Aura and Void if we can. And then sometimes it can make a little 1/1 tile if you need to put that in there to get a creature on the board, like I say. But this is really our protection spell that we do use in the deck. Which one was what I did miss one? Flourishing Bloomkin, +1/1 for each forest you control. We got 23 forest. It just seems like a really good uncommon big beater in there, and can obviously put down for the disguise flipped to get more forest on the battlefield. But really, this even coming down turn 2, turn 3, it's just going to get bigger each time, and it's just a really good big creature that can turn massive Stompy, especially when you get the trample going in this deck. This is a really fun build using Innkeepers and Aura board and using those counters with the might as well to get everything big and just stomping over. But yeah, let's get on to the second deck. So second deck, we're going for the Singularity Dimir Mill deck in a budget version. So we're using 3 of the Ruptures, which is destroy creatures, then any number of target players mill half their library rounded down. And the other part of that combo is River Churn Monument that we're using this as a couple of. So this is when you exhaust it, any number of target players, each mill cast equal to the number of cards in the graveyard. So the idea of this is playing it early and then just keep, chipping away with that 1 and tap and getting the mill cards into opponent's graveyard. Hopefully then playing that, and then in the next turn, playing this, is putting the exhaust on this and milling your opponent out for the win. This one, I can say the upgrade for this straight away is pretty simple. If you just want to do a quick upgrade, it's lands, of course, and then it's another couple of these and another one of these. Then the deck will just work a lot more smoothly, and you don't have to, try to fight to find the cards that you need. But we have ways to do that because we've got stock up here, and 4 stock up in the deck can really, when you're looking at top 5, we are going through that deck to find our combo that we need. We have loads of removal interaction in the meanwhile while we're trying to find that. 4 Aetherize that just slows opponent down. We can't use the destruction destroy all creatures versions. The other rare can't, the 5 mana black card that's really escaped my mind. My memory for cards is just getting terrible at the moment. Recovering from a really, really bad cold, as you will know if you've seen this post. Doesn't mean I'll ever remember the card anyway, to be honest. But this just basically is like slowing other decks down into the Floodmoor, slowing down as well. And then we have like Removal City, Bitter Triumphs, Long Goodbye, Shoot the Sheriffs, Strategic Betrayal just in as a one-off, because we do generally want to keep stuff in the graveyard, but for Meet and Reanimate decks, we just generally will use this card to clear that off and hopefully then go again and start milling graveyards. Look at the opponent's hand, Intimidation Tactics to get rid of an artifact or creature cards in there as well. So lots of ways to disrupt the opponent. Bit of counter magic and a bit of more counter magic in negate. This deck works, really well. The slow lands don't really, slow this deck down because you're more with the late game with the 5 mana spell, a 6 mana spell here, and then playing this the following turn for 4 if you can. If it's really late game, you're playing it for 10, doing that, and then that, I've done that in the late game, played them that, and obviously had that on the field and managed to do it at the same time. So it can be done in the same turn. But yeah, this deck is really fun. This is a deck that I just really enjoy playing. Sometimes you just get overdone by aggro because you're not getting your removal quick enough and finding that removal, but it is a deck that will definitely get you some wins. Our third deck, sticking on a bit of a Dimir theme, but we're adding white in here, so we're going for Esper. Esper Pixie is a really competitive tier, probably top tier deck, tier 1, tier 2 deck. Definitely tier 2 without a doubt. And you can make a version here with just 5 rares, and it still works very, very good. You have a couple of Cosmogrand Zenith in there, a couple of Mythic. This puts counters on all creatures, or you can just create tokens with it when you're casting your second spell. And then you have this really good rare, which is Storm Chaser's Talent. 3 of these in here that loves to be bounced, making those otters and returning instants and sorceries if you need to as well. But the idea is playing this, getting your little creature, returning it with a pixie, then this will get a counter as well. A lot of you may have seen this deck already, but this budget version does work really, really well still. Simple upgrade. Just add in another couple of these and the extra one of talent just for initial first one. But this one is really about the lands and the upgrade. That is really what you'll be doing, putting in those rare dual lands in there, because these are the ones I've chosen, which is Command, Bridge and Public. as well, Thoroughfare. Now, these enter tap, they do add for any 1 mana colour, which is good, but they do have stipulations on them. And I've not found, sometimes they've screwed me over, but sometimes, you know, as the majority, they've been pretty decent. We've still got 16 basic lands here as well, so, you know, with just 8 of these in there, they can come in. And of course, when it says, you know, tap and untap permanent, you can then tap something like your Cryogen Relic, your Momentum Breaker, your Nowhere to Run that will be on the field as well, and your Storm Chaser's Talent. So it doesn't have to be one of those creatures that you do tap down that, you know, will take away a blocker. You can play this and tap one of these permanents as well. So that's how I found that those have worked pretty decently in this deck for me so far. So you're you're returning permanents as well with Sunpil Kirin in there, and you've got Fear of Isolation, which is another one's returning permanents to hand. And these are great, obviously, removal to return to hand and get rid of creatures, momentum, and Nowhere to Run, and your Storm Chasers to keep just multiplying those little otters, creatures with prowess coming onto the field. Then you amass your army and you just start swinging in if you can. This can build them up, like I said, put 1/1 counters on creatures. And the CMC spells here, we've got a lot in the 1 and 2 mana CMC mana spells, so we can string off 2 spells at a time. Scout for Survivors is the last bit of tech in this deck, because it can return up to 3 target creatures with total mana value 3 or less, which means we can return Zenith if we need to, because we've only got a couple of these in this budget version of the deck. But if not, this can return a Nurturing Pixie. It can then get back a Sunpel Kern as well. So Sunpel Kirin as well. Get my words out right. Or Fear of Isolation. So Scout for Survivors in there's a couple of really does help us out if we meet a deck that has a lot of removal. But I found this deck to be quite competitive, even with just 5 rares. Very easy to upgrade this deck, but still a nice deck, especially if you're a new player, beginner, and you want a slightly more competitive deck, then this deck would definitely give you a good chance of that. I've got a couple of decks to go, and this is our real aggro deck. It is a Goblins deck. So mono red Goblins, just aggressive, heavily creature based, 30 creatures in there and just a little bit of instant artifact and enchantments in there. 22 lands, surprisingly like 2.4 average when you look at our previous decks at like 2.0, but this is very, very aggro, all about getting creatures onto the battlefield. So if you like those type of decks and just swinging sideways, then this is the one for you. So we look at the rares that we've got in this deck. Our rares are Krenko Mob Boss, because it's just so good and it can make a huge amount of creatures. Tap this, make X 1/1 goblins, where X is the number of goblins you control, and yeah, we got a lot of goblins. We've got 30 goblins in this deck, so the chances when you get this on late game is going to be massive, and you will be able to get a lot of aggro getting onto that field as well. So the other one that we do run that is the rare is the Buffer. So this gives other goblins all +1/1, and we have 3 of this rare on there, and that is basically what it's on there for. We can pay 1, give another target goblin you control flying. When it does combat damage, you have to sacrifice it though. But this is on there for our Anthem creature, to give all of these tiny little goblins 1/1s. You know, they're very small power and toughness, 1/1, 2/1, 1/2s, 2/1s, as you can see. But when you get the +1/1, and this is legendary, so you can get multiples of these onto the field. And then we have a couple of Patchwork Banner. Naming the goblin, then all the goblins get an additional 1/1 mana. So you can see that these little goblins can all of a sudden be massive beaters. Well, not massive, not green stompy massive, but they can be very good, and these are very, very aggro as well. So it's a good way to do that. So Frenzied Goblin, lots of little 1/1s, like I said, Fanatical Firebrand, the Goblin here as well. Reckless, that can be, you know, they've got abilities as well. Sacking this creature, draw a card, create a treasure token if it becomes something that you just can't get through with anything. Cam is a card that I really do like. We got a couple of these in here. This was from the Spider-Man set. Whenever you discard a card, Farret gets +2 and +0 as well. So there is an ability on here that we can do that. Goblin Surprise, a pump that might, you know, just sneak a win through, or we create even more goblins as well. So Goblin Surveyor, this one has Trample, start your engines, we can get max speed there. And Volley Veteran acts as a kind of removal spell, so it deals damage to a target creature or opponent controls equal to the number of goblins. So we potentially could get rid of a lot of big goblins that way. Now, last card to talk about is Painter Studio Deface Gallery. Deface Gallery can come down really early and gives those creatures a bump when they attack. which I think is a pretty decent card for this deck. With so many creatures, we have multiple ways to make these, like with the drop kick and the patchwork and this turn 2 to make all our creatures big and hopefully get through a lot of damage in this. Painter Studio, when in testing, I've not really managed to do this. I've always won before I've managed to, needed it, exile the top 2 cards, but that is another good ability for 3 mana in case you need to fill up your hand a little bit as well. One more to talk about, Devoted Duelist. Whenever you cast your second of each turn, 1 extra damage. So an extra way to get a little bit of damage. And as you can see, so many 1-drops, there is quite a good chance that we could then get multiple spells off and then get that little bit of damage in as well. But this is a really cool deck and very aggro. Goblins is a different take on the usual mono red. So if you like playing this type of deck, then lots of creatures turning sideways, then I would definitely recommend Goblins to you. We go for another tribal deck now, which is Angels. So we're going in with an Angel deck here, and this is where I change my 3 and 2 that I usually do, because I felt like I really wanted Gaida in the deck because it makes Angels come in with extra counters and can obviously be tapped for mana as well. Exemplar is just too good to leave out. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter in it and it gets to draw cards, and we can gain life in this. But this at the top end, a single Lyra Dawnbringer, is just, the perfect angel and probably my most favourite angel there is in Magic, to be honest. This was one of the first commander decks that I built around Lyra. Flying, first strike, lifelink, other angels get +1/1 and lifelink as well. So, great card. You could definitely put another one of these in to make this deck a little bit better as well. But yeah, so we went for the 2/2/1 in here. But this is an angel-based deck with 25 angels in the deck. This one, slightly higher CMC, goes a bit more mid-rangey, this one, compared to definitely compared to the Goblin deck. You're looking to build up here and then fly over the top with the winds. If you can get this down turn 2, that's a great start for the deck. But what white does as well, not only does it have some really good angels in here, like Valkyrie and Uncommon. Whenever angel enters, you put a 1/1 counter as creature that can build up really quick. We have lots of good common and uncommon angels in here. So that builds up the majority of the deck, like Angel Vitality, gaining life. This will then get +2/2. Dazzling Angel, this is one that can obviously get the life gain going. So it is a later one, turn 3, but like I said, this is more of a mid-rangey sort of deck. Whenever the creature you enter, gain that 1 life, and then you just start building up. Holy Cow, when this creature enters, gain 2 life, Scry, Flash Flying, getting it in there, getting some more life gain. So it's going to work well against those aggro decks, this one, because of the life gain in it. More life gain with Inspiring Overseer, but you get to draw a card as well, so a way to go through. And it's another good deck to be able to utilise Patchwork Banner, which in these type of tribal decks, when you're playing Angels, Goblins, or anything like that, this is a really good ramp card, buff card, and owned for only 3 mana. So it's seeing play in a slightly more competitive decks of Angels and Goblins without a doubt, because it's just really, really decent to get turn 3 and helps you towards when you upgrade this, potentially some bigger angels that cost more mana, then this will, potentially help you out as well with more Gaidas in your deck as well. Angel Finality helps against those discard decks or anything like wants to play around Reanimator. Couple of these in here just to exile target player's graveyard, which means we can attack a target player when they're playing those reanimated decks. It's only 4 mana, so we should be able to get them in time to clear out their deck. Other than that, what does White do? White has excellent removal, so one of the best in standards, Sheltered by Ghosts. Valeria Stance to protect a creature or destroy a big creature. And then we have Parting Gust as well, which means we get to exile a target non-token. If the gift wasn't promised, return it to the battlefield. But then, obviously, you can do this against yourself as well, remember. But we can do this on an opponent, give them a tap fish, and we just fly over the top if need be. Restoration Magic. Just in there is a couple of, because it's sort of bit protection as well, which is nice. And the second one is protection plus indestructibility, both of them. So we can escape a Wrath with 1 good creature, maybe. But then we gain life as well. So, if we go for the big one late game and someone's still trying to Wrath as permanents, you control Hexproof and Indestructible and then it gains 6 life. So that means then everything will survive that Wrath, barring exile, of course, barring the spacecraft mass removal. This deck, super fun. I've said that about all of them, but they really are. These are brews that you can take and have some fun with and potentially climb the ladder as well. Very basic land base. With these sort of decks, the mono white, mono red, you don't have to really touch them with rare lands. A couple of the other decks you do. But with these, you can literally just play them with your basics. This one has Raceway in because max speed is decent to give target creature gains haste, which we had in the Goblins deck as well that I forgot to mention, that can give Krenko that early tap for the Goblins. I did forget to mention that as well. But this, can definitely fly away with a win. So that's been 5 decks for you today that I've brewed together, put together. Hope you've enjoyed them. 5 rares. Like I said, if you want more than what I've mentioned about upgrading the decks, let me know in the comments down below, and I appreciate all the thumbs ups, and share it, because that's the best way that YouTube will recognize that people like it and share it with new people and just grow the channel. So I do appreciate that. If you want to go a bit further, you can then support me by going and checking out my Patreon and becoming a member there. I put deck lists and stuff like that on early from the $3 stage, so you can get all these a bit earlier and then chat to me more one-on-one, which is sometimes people do like doing. And then if you want to get any of these decks in paper, check out my sponsors, Cardmarket. Great company if you're in Europe that you can get good cards on there from. But thanks for watching today's video. You lot take care, and I'll see you on the next one.